Hi all! Welcome back to my book nook. It's Amanda here. So today I'm going to be talking about what I feel is one of, if not the best adaptation of Romeo and Juliet I have ever come across. It is These Violent Delights by Chloe Gong. So first off, a real quick thing on this author. She's in school still. She is a 21-year-old who is still in college, and this book is amazing. I love it a lot. As I said, probably one of the best adaptations, if not the best adaptation of Romeo and Juliet I've ever come across. So this book takes place in 1920s Shanghai, where it's basically run by gangs. In addition to the whole Shanghai being run by gangs, you have foreign entities such as Britain and France that are trying to carve it up for themselves and have foreign-only establishments and areas that they're able to go to. And you're having the rise of the Communist Party, particularly trying to work its way into the nationalist movement in China and Shanghai. So you have Juliet Tsai, who is the heir apparent of the Shanghai Scarlet Gang, and you have Roma Montagov, who is heir apparent to the Russian-led White Flowers. I say heir apparent because in both cases they have other cousins who are vying for that similar power, Tyler and Dmitri, respective to Juliet and Roma. They also each have two very close confidants. For Juliet, you have Kathleen and Rosalind, and for Roma, you have Marshall and Benedict. Going on outside of the blood feud between these two gangs, there's an unknown disease also going on that infects the people, any person, and causes a madness that leads to them tearing their throats out. Prior to the events of this book, Roma and Juliet had a relationship despite everything being into gangs that are in a blood feud, with the idea of whenever they were to take power, they would be able to rule their sides and rule everything without resorting to the violence that was happening. This all takes place until Roma betrays Juliet by assisting his family in killing a bunch of servants to her family. So that's kind of the main aspect behind the non-spoilery stuff. Even the whole family thing is pretty much non-spoilery because you find it out really early on in the book. So, you remember how earlier I made a comment that apparently my large books I'm ending up with my top ratings? With my whole, add 1 to my number because I can't give 10 out of 10s. 440-page book. Guess what? We got another 9 out of 10. I typically will do this whole thing, hey, I'm going to read for an hour every day because it's a good way to get some good reading in. I did an hour the first time I picked this book up. The second time I picked it up, which was the next day, I was intending, hey, I'll read an hour. I got so sucked into what was going on that I finished the book rather than stopping in an hour. So I had about another 45 minutes onto my reading. Okay, now we're going to get into the in-depth talking about the book. This is where the spoilers are going to be. And yeah. So this book starts off not with either of our main characters, but with two members of the Scarlet Gang walking around, and they run into 5 members of the White Flower. Guns get drawn because, hey, blood feud gang. British police officer sees this, goes over to try to stop everything. Something in the water is noticed. One of the members of the Scarlet Gang gets knocked to the ground, and when he sees what's going on around him, he books it out of there. And what he sees is his other gang member, the White Flowers, and the police officer ripping their throats open. We first meet Juliet in one of the burlesque clubs that her family runs, and she is meeting with an American who is trying to get his product to be sold by the Scarlet Gang. Roma shows up, which is a very dangerous thing for him to do since he is a White Flower going into Scarlet Gang territory to see if Juliet or anyone of the Scarlet Gang knows anything. He's also very shocked when he sees Juliet there because he thought she was still in America. Following what had happened, the attack that happened, she was sent over to America until beginning of World War I, which is when her family brought her back because it was safer in Shanghai than in America. She has no idea what he's talking about. And while there, the other member of the Scarlet Gang from the first thing that we saw is also in this burlesque club, screams and tears his throat out. So now both sides know something's happening. And it becomes worse. Multitudes of people are tearing throats out. The body is taken to a hospital, and the doctors who are on him do it. And it eventually goes not just from within the two gangs, but within the population of Shanghai. Both the natives who live there and the merchants and foreign individuals who are trying to carve it up. There is no discrimination that this madness has between anyone. And the two gangs at first are trying to figure this out on their own. It doesn't work. They attempt to do a sit down to figure it out because Roma's talked to Juliet a couple of times. They're both trying to figure this out. Neither side trusts the other because, again, ongoing blood feud, and both sides think that if the other side figures it out, they're not going to share anything that they find out. So no one wants to share any information that they are getting whatsoever. And so the thing is like, hey, the Scarlet Gang is kind of realizing there's some communist ties into this. Whereas with the White Flowers, Roma has a doctor friend who's like, hey, if you can get me a live victim, we might be able to do some tests and figure out what's going on. Because they were able to tell from one of the dead bodies that there were insects inside that are burrowing in through the brain. So they have their they have a sit down trying to figure out some way to make an established thing to do this. Again, guns are drawn, tensions are high. Neither side really likes each other. And at this meeting, Roma's sister Alyssa starts to reach for her throat and tear it open, to try to tear it open, because she has become infected. Thankfully, Marshall's there, and he basically knocks her out because to help with it, Alyssa ends up in the hospital. They wake her up. She starts to tear at it. They have to put her in a coma because it's the only thing right now that's keeping her alive. And even though both sides are pretty much like, we're not doing this, Roma's like, I need to save my sister. Juliet's like, I need to save the Shanghai people. And so they decide, despite the fact that neither side of their families would like this, they are going to continue to work together and try to figure this out because they each have something important that they are working towards. Even though, also during this, even though Juliet had turned down the American merchant, his son is still trying to get Juliet to be like, hey, why don't you agree with us? And she's like, no, I don't want to agree with you, and I also don't like you. Don't ask me out on dates. But she's also trying to do that, get her to go out with him. So Roma and Juliet break into the Communist Party's area. They find out that the leader of it, I'm not going to try to pronounce his name because I will butcher it, and I do not want to do that, has a connection to whatever's going on. And part of this connection is also with this person called Linksport. Continuing on, they end up finding a merchant who is working with Linksport. Lots of drinking gets involved and trying to get more information because it's basically if you want to answer to a question, you have to take a shot. Roma, despite being Russian, does not drink a lot, so it was a nice little, hey, I might be Russian, but I don't really drink. It's like turn on the whole stereotype. And there's a little bit of conversation, which you realize that even though Juliet is very much putting up walls because she does not trust Roma, the last time that happened, she was betrayed, Roma is still very much in love with her. He still has a lot of feelings for her. They end up going to where this Linksport is. They start getting they start getting more data, more evidence and everything. And while this is going on, Marshall and Benedict, who have been told to get a live victim, get one, they take it to the doctor. Roma and Juliet take what they have found to the doctor, and they realize it's kind of like a lice. It burrows in through the hair to get into the person. And almost gets the doctor. They shave off his beard because that's where he was trying to go and stomp on those 2 bugs. And there's also been talk of a monster. So they know that somehow the monster and these bugs are connected, but we're not quite sure how yet, because it's all talked about together. While at the doctor, which is a nice little aside to the Romeo and Juliet aspects, he also talks to them about a potion that he made that can make someone appear to be dead for about 3 hours. So Juliet and Roma eventually realize that these insects are connected to the monster as part of the monster. If you kill the monster, they will all die. So they send Benedict and Marshall to watch over Alyssa, and they are going to kill the monster. This is all going on as the actual worker revolution is starting to begin. So they get to the Communist Party's headquarters, they find the leader, they kill him, and they're still hearing screaming as people from the outside, as people are ripping their throats out. And they realize this was not the right person, but they know it's connected to him. So they then realize it has to be his manservant Kieran. I probably butchered that, and I am sorry. I thought an easier name to say, and I didn't just want to be like his manservant the whole time. I'm really sorry if I mispronounced that. So they go to the leader's house, find Kieran there, but they also find Paul there. Because Paul and his father had been kind of the backbones and masterminds behind this hire on Paul. And Paul injects Juliet with the vaccine to all of this and sends the monster out. And the monster goes towards water, and they know where he's going, and the 2 of them split up, with Roma taking one route to get to the river and Juliet trying to get people to go inside. Roma is also the direction that he's running, get people to go inside so these insects that are coming off of it can't go after them. They get to the river, and while Juliet had been vaccinated to these insects, Roma hadn't. Which then led to the most terrifying 1-sentence chapter in this book, which is Roma's hands launched to his throat. Juliet, though, manages to kill the monster before he can tear his throat out. Paul also dies during all of this scuffling and everything, and so Roma and Juliet then leave to go to the hospital to see Alyssa. While all this was going on, the Scarlet Gang had realized there was a spy in their midst because the White Flowers were knowing things they shouldn't have known. Tyler, wanting to, have the control, is suspicious of Juliet, has someone follow her, and they see her and Roma working together. So he goes with a few of the Scarlet Gangs into the hospital, have both Marshall and Benedict at gunpoint with 2 each on them. So there is a lot of guns again drawn now in this hospital room. One of the Scarlet Gang members gets shot through the neck and dies, and Marshall gets shot in the torso, but he is not dead. There is also workers' revolutions armed, heading towards the hospital. So Juliet's like, we need to get out of here. We need to just put all this aside for the moment and leave because we will all die if we do not. But the Scarlet Gang doesn't want to leave until there is equal death for what they lost. Prior to this, during one of the interactions when Roma and Juliet were talking, we find out why Roma betrayed Juliet to his family, and it was because when his father found out what was going on, he was going to force Roma to kill Juliet, and rather than doing that, Roma gave up information so they could make a hit on more people. Juliet then, in her attempt to try to get Roma to leave with everything, rather than this whole argument about we all need to get out of here and everything, she says 2 words, which are the name of the street that Roma's mother was put into after this attack as a safe house. She knew about this as one of the safe houses because after the attack happened, because she was pissed at Roma and she was pissed that she was being forced away, she gave to the people who were taking her to the ship all the information that she knew, which included that address. Roma's mother was killed, and the White Flowers, though, marked it as a death to an illness that she had, so no one knew. All of this is still, all the fighting and argument is still going on. No one's leaving. So Juliet makes the decision. She gets her gun, she backhands Marshall across the face and shoots him in the head. Now there's been another death. Benedict and Roma can take Alyssa and leave, and her, Tyler, and the other Scarlet gang can also leave. Because as they're leaving, she tells Tyler that she will take care of Marshall's body. We find out then that Marshall is not dead. While at the doctor, Juliet had taken that potion. When she backhanded Marshall, she did so she could slip that to him. She did not actually shoot him in the head. She shot near the head, and so he was not actually killed. The point of this is to keep him hidden until she can find a way to get rid of Tyler, because Tyler is the danger. And after that is all done, then Marshall doesn't need to hide that he's dead. And she did this because she also still loves Roma. It has to be kept, that also has to be kept a secret, because who knows who could be listening. Here's another thing with this book. It's a to be continued. I am waiting in anticipation for the next book. They killed the monster, but that's not the end. Because when Juliet sent people to collect the body of the monster, it was not there, but there was a note. And in the note, which was written by Paul, it said, "In the event of my death, release them all." And the last line of the book is, "And in the distance, a chorus of screaming tore through the city." Oh my god, I love this book. I cannot wait until the second one comes out. I am going to, even if it's not part of the book of the month, I am going to get it and I am going to read it because oh, read this book. It is amazing. Amazing. You need to read it. Trust me. Alright. So I will see you next time. Guys, like the video, subscribe to my channel to catch other videos, and ring the bell so when they get posted you always get told. Thanks. Bye everyone.